And if there is one triangle basketball team, ACC triangle basketball team, that can feel good about the new year, it's probably Duke. And I don't think all you, everybody loves Duke people can really get mad at us on this one. Duke is going to have to find some mini goals throughout their ACC schedule. I'm big on mini goals in certain situations. And what a mini goal is a way to judge success and failure other than the final score. And the reason why you need mini goals is because I don't think it's best for anyone's development to, and this is every team sport, every individual sport, every athlete, to just beat up on competition that maybe is not at your level. Right? Well, the Duke beat Virginia Tech in a game that they were favored by 24.5 in conference. Now, that says something about Virginia Tech. Mm-hmm. That says something about the rest of the ACC.
Sure.
But winning a game that you were favored by 24.5 by 23, which is what Duke did.
Didn't cover.
Brutal. Which, by the way, on the Adam Gold Show, one of my picks was like, there's no way an ACC game should ever have this, and I picked Duke. I picked Tech plus the points. Sweated it out pretty good. It is a situation where if you go into games that are just that, like, hey, you could win by 15 and that would be underwhelming, you need to set yourself up to be motivated in other ways. Right now, if I look at the ACC and if the season ended today, who's going to be in the tournament? It's probably Duke, Pitt, maybe Clemson. Duke, Pitt, maybe Clemson. If you wanted to squeeze another team into like the Dayton first round, maybe. That's not going to give you a ton of opportunities to test yourself against the teams that you're going to have to beat if you want to go and make a Final Four or beyond. If you're a Final Four caliber team and you're playing against a conference schedule that has 3, maybe 4 NCAA tournament teams, that's not going to be enough to give you a real task. That's not going to be enough for the coaching staff to have your attention in ways that you can only find after a failure. So Jon Scheyer's challenge, right? And this is the challenge of a young coach. This is a challenge of quite frankly, just a young individual, right? He's mid-30s and he's leading Duke basketball. One of his challenges is going to be to make sure nobody goes on cruise control, to make sure nobody doesn't do the, yeah, but we won. That is a dangerous statement. Yeah, but we won. Well, we won by 10 against a team that should have beat by 20. Coaches have to be able to yell and scream and and have a hard practice the next day. And not have everyone, as they run up and down stadium steps or as they do the defensive drill for the 10th time because you didn't have great defensive rotations in the game, nobody is thinking, why we won? What is he so mad about? How do you practice big moments in a 23-point win? How do you practice tension in a 23-point win? That's the challenge, right? When you're ahead by 10 with 5 minutes left in the first half and it never gets closer than 9 the rest of the way, which is exactly what happened against Virginia Tech, how do you practice the big moments that you, quite frankly, were about 50-50 in executing during the non-conference schedule? Right? Kentucky, the Kansas game, you didn't execute well down the stretch. And then the other thing is, and I've been talking about this, don't just give it to Cooper Flagg and check out. Which is, at times, I'm sure, tempting.
It's easy to do it. Yeah, he can do it. It's fine. We've seen him do it.
He gets all the attention anyway. Might as well make him. It's, what do they call it? I just, for the holidays, drove to my parents' house in Orlando. It's a long drive. The thing where, like, you're on a highway, you're paying attention, you're alert, changing lanes, everything, but you kind of, like, snap out of it 25 minutes later, and you're like, who was driving the car there? Because your brain was just somewhere else. Highway hypnosis.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what they call it.
All right.
You can do that if you are 1-2 players on Duke against Virginia Tech. All right, everybody else is going to get it. Right? It's like a quarterback when you have a team that can't stop the run that you're playing against. And I'm just going to hand it off here. Doop-de-doo. That's part of the task. That's part of the challenge for Duke now. Jon Scheyer talked about Cooper Flagg reaching another level, which is all good. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to act like that's a problem.
He reclassified. Like how many different times can you point to a reclassification where a guy's doing this and he's the number one guy in a scouting report, and he, to have played every game up until now at 17 years old, he's been incredible. And I still felt like over break, I told him, I think he's still got way more in him. And I thought he unleashed even more what he can do today. But we should all cherish the fact that Cooper came a year early, Kaman came a year early, and they're playing at this level. To me, it doesn't get necessarily mentioned enough. I know we praise Cooper and he deserves it, but what he does for our team is incredible.
What he does for their team is incredible. And I've said this once, I'm going to say it again. There will be an NCAA tournament game where one of a few things happens. Flagg gets in foul trouble. He wakes up and has an off day. There will be a day where everybody else is going to have to step up and cover for Cooper. You don't want it to be the first time they've done it in months. You don't want it to be that. Even if, again, the ACC is down, it creates a new challenge. Coach K didn't have that challenge very often. And by the way, I would say this about Pitt. I would say this about anyone that makes the NCAA tournament out of the ACC this year. Clemson, a few teams rally. You have never had to worry about it in the ACC, at least not in my lifetime. Right? If you made it out of the ACC and you made it in the NCAA tournament, you were the most battle-tested. And I still think there's an element of that day in and day out, but it's not as good this year. It's not as good this year. Jon Scheyer talked about players growing into their roles. Let's hear what he had to say.
We've had to have more structure in some sequences where maybe we wouldn't have as much in the past, but I think it's helped them feel really confident with what they're looking for in offense, what their reads are, instead of saying you can do whatever. Not saying we've said that, but we've simplified it more for them. And give them credit. End of the day, they need to make the right plays. They need to be unselfish. And then I also want us to be aggressive and be ready to shoot. I still didn't think we had as good of a shooting night as we can have. I think there's going to be a game here where we can really break out and, for Tyrese and Khan, go 3 of 12. I thought they had good looks. I think they're too good of shooters. They're going to hit some of those.
Shooter's going to shoot. I have no problem with all of that. The roles are fascinating. And the last thing I'll say is this. None of these guys have been role players in their lives. That's always a task going to, and by the way, that's any of these super top tier where you get multiple 5 stars.
And that's kind of what he was discussing there.
Never, ever. Right, Con Knipple is the guy who his role this year might be shooter, might be secondary creator. He's been the guy his entire life who, when the game gets crazy, he just goes, give me the ball, watch what I do with it. It's not him. I think Tyrese Proctor has gotten better at it the last couple of years. He's part of being a third-year player, but there's a lot of guys that have to learn that.